everybody, and welcome to the third in our series of PETRA-E conversations organized by the PETRA-E network. My name is Duncan and I'm the chair of the network. The idea behind these events is that we bring together two network members for a discussion of an area of shared expertise and research interest, which is shared in the first instance with fellow network members and then made available more widely through a recording, which will be released afterwards on the library of the PETRA-E website and on our social media. So just a reminder then, you should, I think, have been alerted to this already, but we are then recording this session, and the recording will be made available more generally afterwards. I should start as well with a couple of expressions of thanks to our PETRA-E secretary, Josephine Murray, for her publicity efforts and other behind the scenes work in setting this up, and to Trinity College Dublin for hosting us online, for technical support, and our colleague James Hadley is unseen but in the room there with our speakers, who are physically at the Trinity Centre for Literary and Cultural Translation at Trinity College Dublin. And it's actually, I think, a first for the PETRA-E conversation series to have our two conversants actually physically in the same space. I'm only sorry I can't be there myself. I'm joining you from my home in Cambridge in the UK. We held then an inaugural conversation at the end of 2024 when Waltraud Kolb from Vienna and James Hadley from Dublin were discussing machine translation, AI, and literary translation. Earlier this academic year, last November, some of you may have attended our second conversation, which was featuring Maria Pipeva from Sofia and Katerina Walter from Innsbruck, and they were talking about translating children's literature. In today's conversation, we are, I would say, unapologetically returning to the area of literary translation and computers more broadly, since such a lot has happened in this area already just over the last 18 months since we were last conversing around it. So we're going to have a conversation between our two speakers for roughly 45 minutes. The whole session will run for the hour, so there will be questions, time for questions at the end, 10 or 15 minutes, and do please then use we've got a Q&A field today as well as the chat, but perhaps the Q&A by preference, to type in your questions and I'll put them to our speakers later on. Without further ado, then let me introduce our two speakers. Dr. Natalia Resende is the Haddad Assistant Professor in Literary Translation at the Trinity Centre for Literary and Cultural Translation, Trinity College Dublin. So with a multidisciplinary background in computer science, linguistics and psycholinguistics, Natalia's teaching draws on expertise across all of these fields. And throughout her career, she's worked as senior researcher on several large-scale EU-funded projects focused on machine translation evaluation, machine learning, and human-computer interaction. Her current research explores stylistic features in human, machine, and large language model translated texts, as well as aspects of the human-machine translation interaction. Our second speaker, Goedele De Sterck, is an associate professor of translation studies at the University of Salamanca in Spain, where she teaches scientific, technical, literary, and news media translation. Her research interests include literature in translation, the sociology of translation, the translation of neologisms, and translation technologies. She's also a literary translator from Dutch, French, and English into Spanish, and has translated some 120 books by Flemish and Dutch authors in the fields of fiction, non-fiction, and children's and youth literature. In 2018, Goedele was awarded the National Translation Prize for a Lifetime Achievement by the Dutch Foundation for Literature in recognition of her work as a cultural ambassador and literary translator from Dutch into Spanish. Now then, Natalia and Goedele are planning to talk about a wide range of issues, including the impact of AI on translation pedagogy, ethics, quality and assessment, workflows, professional ecology, and changes in the translation market and future directions. So that's a very big menu for the next 40 minutes or so. But we'll see how far we get, and if there are any areas perhaps which haven't been covered by the time we switch to questions, do feel free to ask questions in those areas, or indeed any things that Natalia and Goedele are discussing over the next period. The opportunities there already for you to put questions into the Q&A, and please feel free to do so when they strike you. I'm now, though, going to blend into the background, and I'm going to hand over to our two speakers, and looking forward to this very much. Natalia and Goedele, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Duncan. So we have structured our talk around like three main topics: profession, training, and research. And we first would like to thank also PETRA-E for inviting us, Duncan Large for chairing this event, Josephine for organizing it, and also the audience for joining us, and of course James Hadley and Natalia and the Trinity Center for Literary and Cultural Translation for hosting the event. And I would like to make some publicity first. I'm again here in Trinity Center, and I would recommend it to any literary translator, any translation scholar. It's really a very, very, very interesting experience. And so we will ask some questions to each other. We will start by our background, because we think that our background can have an impact on how we view translation, literary translation, and also AI. So Natalia, can you tell me a bit about your background?
Okay, well, I think Duncan has already outlined a little bit of my experience. Well, currently I teach literary translation, but because I have this career involving AI, but especially focusing on machine translation, also human-computer interaction, but mainly machine translation, human interaction. Also, currently I'm doing research more focusing on large language models for literature, especially focusing on style, differences between translation style produced by generative AI, large language models, and also comparing to human style. I'm also interested now in human-computer interaction or AI human interaction. So because of this, the past experience, the current experience, I teach here somehow all the modules related to technology. Like for instance, introduction to localization, interlingual technologies that I address, machine translation, large language models. I also teach programming for translators, and also a module called machine translation for literary texts. So I think this is, I also have a background in psycholinguistics, and I bring this knowledge to my research.
Okay.
So that's it.
Okay.
Basically.
Thank you. So Natalia has the double profile. I think it's a very interesting profile for the nowadays world. My profile is a bit different. I studied Romance languages, and I did a PhD in Spanish linguistics, in corpus linguistics, but at the beginning of the 19th, it was like very basic. It has changed a lot, but I think that background, the corpus linguistics, has always be a companion for me also when I translate. So I love translating and literary translating because of language more than because of literature, maybe, or more because of literary form than literary content or so. And so I've been a freelance translator, also literary freelance translator for more than 20 years. So I think that on the one hand, I represent the profession. I still translate today. I'm based at the University of Salamanca now. I'm a full-time scholar, but I still translate literature. So let's say that now I have the three aspects in me. It's like research, teaching, and profession. And not only in the academic world, but also in the professional world. I'm a mentor for a lot of mentees. So that gives me maybe also the possibility to talk on behalf of the different aspects that all together integrates like literary translation. And my research is mainly based on mostly practitioners' research. So I'm really experimenting now in my own translations, also with AI, with if I use it for reviewing or for translating or as a tool. So, and I've not published yet on it, but I'm on it. I want to publish in a few months or something. I will have some results. So that's it, more or less.
Yeah, and as a translator, as like a professional translator, and also a scholar in the field of translation studies, literary translation, what is your view on AI in literary translation nowadays?
Well, I would like to be open on it. I think it's very important that the debate is open, an open debate among all agents of the literary field. And I feel a bit weird at this stage because there is a really black-white opinion on literary translation and AI. Some people are for it and or against it, but it's like no or yes. And I think we are a bit in a situation we are like stuck. And that's why I like to talk about it with other people and openly. So we don't have a magic ball. We are in a period of transition. We don't know what's going to happen, but real professional life is there. Publishers are using AI. So I think we better face it and try to see, instead of saying, well, we don't use it at all. It's not good to use it. It's unethical to use it. Of course, there are unethical aspects. We will get into that later on. But we as translators and also as teachers, we need to face reality. And so we will, well, also in the profession, freedom of translators view, I think it's really important. So if a translator wants to use it, well, in the limits and regulation, there is almost no regulation. There are problems with training data and so on, but there is the EU Act. And so normally each provider of AI should respect the copyright directive. So there is some regulation already in place, but then what with the output, well, we will see what there is a debate. I think we need a debate. And as a corpus linguist, I really think that LLM is like a huge corpus. It's at the end, it's like a pool of data. It's not a pool of texts, it's a pool of data.
Exactly.
So I think it's like an amplifier of the human capacity. And I'm very, as a translator and also as a teacher, as a trainer, I believe firmly in close reading, but in addition to distant reading. So the work of Goedele, for instance, I think it was really a pillar for literary translation studies. And I think that AI and distant reading can be really, really, really helpful and useful. That's one thing. And also AI discovers or detects patterns. And it can also help to define what is literary form, because there are unmarked and marked language uses. If patterns are general, it's obvious that AI will be more able to translate those texts who are unmarked stylistic texts. It's easier to translate, probably. but there will be other texts that are more difficult to translate. So I think it's also really important to know, to do research on what is literary form, for instance.
So this is also my view. I also think, see AI in general. Actually, I think, well, machine translation is also AI, but then, I mean, generative AI, like ChatGPT, for instance, or DeepSeek, or any other similar model, they could amplify our, I also see it as a pool of data. And then this can also amplify our skills, can assist translators during the process, right? So then it can be used in different contexts. It can be used for different tasks. I myself use it in different tasks. We're gonna talk about it later. But I know, I am aware of the risks that are involved in using the AI. But I think it is our role as educators in general to teach and also brainstorm with the students how to get the most of these tools, right? For their own education, for their professional activities, for their life in general, because the tools are here, and I believe they are here to stay, or even stay and improve, and also their capacity is increasing every day. And also the industry, it requires now, if we read the European Language Industry Survey, we can see that the industry requires skills in AI from professionals. So I think it is totally, students should be aware, and we should be aware that this is happening. And then we should also try to somehow guide our students and future professionals in how to best use the tool and use it for the good of everyone, and ethically, of course.
And you have mentioned now the Alice survey, and it's a very important survey, of course. But I know that some literary translators will be thinking maybe, well, but literary translation is no industry, but it is a business. So it is a business, and that's why publishers, they are keen of get more productivity and get more. So that's why we should be there too, and to show them evidence why the human translator is important. What is the added value, no, of the human translation in addition?
Yeah, but there is, I totally agree. But there is certain literary translation, they do literary translation, but they also work in the industry. So then we have these two sides of the coin. But my perception is that, and also my personal research here shows that these tools can be helpful in these two contexts, in these two scenarios.
Yeah.
So I think it is my role. I feel that my role, it is to think critically on how to use these tools.
Use it, me too. I think we agree. And now, so I will ask you the next question. Now we are focusing really on the professional context.
Yeah.
How can AI be used in the professional context?
Well, when I think in professional context for literary translators, I think AI, as we were discussing, AI, it is a large pool of data. So then we can, literary translators can leverage these advantages, like, for instance, for brainstorming the best options for translation, also using it as like a source for better lexical choices. Also, well, in the industry, in the industry context, the professional translators are actually using it as to post editing, right? For post editing tasks. And I know that we are going to talk about it. and sometimes it is not seen by them it is the best kind of way to use the tool, because there are certain constraints involved. But on the other side, the literary translation professionals can use the AI as a kind of a source of data, and also brainstorming, and it's like an assistance tool, right? So then it can be used to assist them in with strategies. Well, in general, I see it as a tool that can be very valuable during the translation process.
Okay. So yeah, I also agree in this. I think mostly maybe in the professional context, a lot of literary translators are focusing more on what it doesn't do or can't do.
Exactly.
But maybe we should ask another question. How can it help us? Because it's clear that if we don't reflect on it, publishers are using it. The other day, some days ago, I met a scholar of the Netherlands, and she told me that in the Netherlands, 30% of the publishers is using AI, so they're really using it. So how can we get evidence to show them that raw output or output superficially post-edited in the industry is maybe not enough, at least for some books? I think it's really important that we do research on that also.
Yeah.
And I think it can be helpful in all stages of the process. Just for instance, for preparing the source text, you can clean it. Yeah, you can clean it with, because thanks to Natalia, I got a bit familiar with Python 2 years ago, because I stayed here for 1 year. But now, thanks to AI, it's much easier to use Python. You don't need to know a lot of programming anymore.
No, we don't need. Yeah, we at least we need to. Students need to understand what the AI is doing.
Yeah.
And also look at the coding critically.
Yeah.
This is what I try to do with them. But yeah, that's true. You don't need to do everything from scratch anymore.
No, yeah.
And perhaps this is what literary translators could start doing with during the translation process. Use like the output as a first draft, right?
For instance,
as a first draft, and then work on it, polish it, because we know, and I've been testing for different tasks involving literary translation, especially the for translation of poetry, translation of literature that involves certain style, and others that are more focused on the plot. So subgenres within literary translation. And I now, at the stage that we are, my tests reveal that there isn't like a human parity. So then we cannot say that the machine is doing what a human can do, of course. But there are many other aspects that the tool is amazing. For instance, for try to find the best word to try to reproduce the rhyme in the source text, for instance.
Yeah, it offers a lot of, it's like variety. It's not, the human mind is limited. We have here like a huge corpus. So if prompting is also very important, how to prompt to get the good results. And then you have talked about the first draft. Well, I wonder, so I will be like playing also a bit the devil's advocate here. The first draft, normally a literary translator has the source text, and then he is the author of the translation. But if we use a first draft, maybe there is a shift also, because it's the machine who is generating like a text. And then maybe the authorship of the translator is like shifting, and it could be like the decision-making process to transform that first draft in a really literary translation. So the decision-making process would be more important even than before.
But the decision-making process of the translator.
Yeah, of the translator as added value.
Yeah,
so I wonder if
yeah.
maybe we should also reflect on authorship. What is literary translator authorship? Is it changing? What is plagiarism? Because I know a lot of literary translators consider using a first draft as plagiarism.
Exactly, yes.
So,
but then I think that as we had discussed before, and this I think it also depends on the definition they have on what is plagiarism.
Yeah.
Right?
And how would you define it?
How I would define it? Well, I think plagiarism it is when you kind of use someone else's ideas without acknowledging it, right? In that case, using it as a first draft, I wouldn't see it as plagiarism because, well, theoretically, and I totally believe this, what these models AI, like generative AI do, it is to generate novel, unseen text. And so in this sense, I wouldn't say it is plagiarism. And also not only because it is what it is generated is unseen novel text, but also because the translator, the human translator, is still working on it. Okay, it doesn't use someone else's ideas without acknowledging. They use their own ideas. It is just like on a second level of work on what had been produced before.
Yeah, and that's also very interesting what you say, because I, as a translator, I'm always overwriting the source text. So I don't work with two screens. I have the source text. So for me, when someone says, well, you are translating from scratch, I never feel I'm translating from scratch because there is the source text. So it's like a derivative work. There is already something. And so the first draft would be another layer on it, and then the final draft would be but maybe also it's not post-editing as they understand it in the industry, because in the industry it's like fix errors and make as few changes as possible because productivity is very important. But maybe we should really negotiate and also open up a debate with publishers, with academia, to define those concepts. Maybe it's reworking, and reworking can be really creative.
Yeah, exactly.
Can
be very creative. As translation, it could be also considered reworking of the source text. Translators also use their own ideas when translating, right? So
so maybe it could be, I think there are a lot of concepts that need to be
clarified, defined.
Yeah, with evidence, also with research evidence. And so would you like to add something? Well, maybe the question is also, how far can we go in the use of AI as a tool? Because some translators and also scholars, maybe they say, well, I only use it, as you say, for brainstorming, because if I use it in another way, for me, it's unethical. But I think to know what is ethical or not ethical, we need to know also how it works, how large language models work. It's not you put in a text and the text isn't coming out as no, it's just a pool. And
exactly.
So that's very important also.
Yes, then it learns with data, right? So algorithms learn with data and produce novel unseen text based on that knowledge. It works more or less like an artificial brain, right?
Yeah.
Of course, it is not as sophisticated as a human brain, of course, but it has different advantages. It has different skills because it is a brain that has access to a larger data. Right? So something that we our brain, it is fantastic, but it is kind of limited in terms of access to such a huge amount of data.
Yeah, that's true. And also, well, when we think in terms of the literary translator as being at home and translating from scratch, but the reality is different. And to avoid that publishers use almost raw output, maybe we should open this debate.
Yeah.
But among all of us, and maybe PETRA-E could be also a good platform to open the debate. And I would like to ask you another question in the professional, but also, well, in general.
Okay.
I've read a lot of times that AI simplifies and homogenizes like language, but you did some very interesting research and you came to another conclusion, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on the perspective. With my studies, what I saw is that there are like a separation. We can clearly separate what is human style and what is AI style. There are huge differences. And one major difference is that AI tends to use words that are not so frequent. They are rare words. Okay, so AI tends to use these rare words, and that's why sometimes when we read a text, it sounds too perfect, so professional that it sounds weird and sounds artificial, right? But on the other hand, it is interesting because at the same time we can learn with the machine, right? And then we can learn how to use that word in that context. We can increase our vocabulary, right? Especially if you are a student and you are a translator and the target text is not, you are not a native speaker of that target text. So then you can still learn with the machine in terms, because as we have already discussed, it is a huge pool of data. So then it has access to more vocabulary and things that we haven't thought about. So yeah, so then this is something that it is still an ongoing study. I'm about to publish it, but we can clearly see that humans are acting as author or as a translator, and compared with AI as an author and as a translator, we can see a clear separation in terms of style, in terms of vocabulary choices, in terms of punctuation, in terms of structure, length of sentences. AI sentences are much longer, tend to be much longer. Yeah, so then, but it's still, there is still something we can learn from the machine.
And also there is like a third space between them. No, what happens when the human translator uses a draft version and reworks it? So that would be another version of the same text. Yeah, so that could be also. And I would also like to, well, my experience, the experiments I've been doing with my own translation texts, I think that, yeah, it's like it widens your view on when you are brainstorming with a machine. It widens your view, and it's also like all in one. Before you had to consult the rhyme dictionary and the synonyms and now in a one search you can have an overview. You have to double check, of course, but I think it can also be interesting in terms of learning and enriching, but also productivity in a sense. And I would like to add something else, because people who say that it simplifies and homogenizes, well, I have been translating for the European Parliament for 20 years, and they even in 2014 or something like that, they told us to translate and they told the authors of EU text to simplify the language So to use more plain language, because that's easier for the machine to translate. So that was not AI, that was a human being who told it. And another example, in 2012, Tim Parks, he is a really very renowned literary critic of the New York Times. And he had a piece on Flemish and Dutch literature. That's not very frequent that it happens, but it happened. And he said that the Flemish literature didn't get through in the Anglo-Saxon world because it was too complex, the language use. And the Dutch language, so the Netherlands, there are many authors with very more simple syntax, and it's not so overloaded, maybe, the style. And so in 2012, he already told that in the international literary field, authors who write like a more plain language have more chance to get through. So it's not only the machine. I think it's very easy to blame AI when there is a trend to it, to oversimplify.
Oh yeah,
plain language, easy language, it's all right in a lot of contexts, in the medical context, in the legal context, but complexity is also existing.
It is very complex. When it comes to translation, actually, there is a whole body of research claiming that the translated texts themselves are simplified texts.
Yeah, so
right. There is the simplification hypothesis in
the translation,
and many studies showing that already. Right?
And that's what I'm experimenting with. AI helps me to be more complex when I need to be complex.
Yes.
And because I, as a translator, I have my own, of course, my own voice, but it's involuntary, so it's like unavoidable. Of course, but I don't like to have my own voice. I would like that my voice, my translator voice, changes from one book to another, because that would mean that I'm getting closer to the author. So, and I feel that AI can help me. So that's my aim.
Oh, that's amazing.
And that's why I think really the debate of yes, no, I think we should experiment more, or also the literary translators, not to undermine the profession, because that's not, I'm a literary translator, but to see how it can help us and how it can improve our result, and also even our,
But I think the field of literary translation will be the field that will see you see less impact than other fields of translation. And unfortunately, for like technical translation in general, or subtitling, like games or localization, the impact will be worse. But literary translation, as it involves more creativity, more language devices, and so on. But I also would like to ask a question. How do you see how AI can be used in the context of teaching? How do you use for teaching?
For teaching, well, I think maybe we could, because it's already. I will, if you could talk about the use of it maybe in the classroom, and I will talk a bit of how I use it to boost my own teacher's activity and efficiency. So how I enhance quality of teaching, because I sometimes have like big groups, and then it's very difficult to teach like in a personal way or diversify and so on. And so, for instance, I've created a prompt to create teaching materials to foster personalized and self-directed learning in a module that is called Professional Aspects of Translation. I really like to work with like dilemmas, so students know, if there is a contract with a publisher, which kind of contract, there are information lack and so on. But it's very difficult to create like dilemmas for all translation sectors. There are a lot of them. So I always used one or three, and that's it. But now I have created a prompt so that AI generates for each translation sector, like localization or literary, legal, 3 or 4 dilemmas and with questions for debate and so on. So the students can use it in groups, and so it's like more wider. They have more options to study. And I also use it to do semi-automated grading of translations. So with very specific instructions, for an assignment with very specific instructions, and then the AI the grades vary, so I have to intervene, of course. But it writes also a personal feedback. If I have 30 students, I can't write a personal feedback on every assignment because I wouldn't do anything else in my life. So that's why I use it, and it really works. So I think it's really improving my teaching.
Well, it's also improving my teaching for sure. I use it to brainstorm, or sometimes I discuss with AI ideas I want to discuss with the students in class. And then I come up with even more ideas. And also sometimes I also use it to prepare the class, especially for when teaching Python. So then I use it to help me to elaborate some exercises for students. And also I teach about the AI, right? So then I talk about it. And then I also I test prompt strategies, and then I show certain examples to students for literary translation. I also show like what the output of the machine, and then we ask students to reflect on it. So I use it for many different tasks.
Me too.
Across all of my activities, I use it. It is like for me, it's like a secretary, like having someone to help me, to assist me.
That's true. On all levels, like research, teaching, and translating. So now we have the last question is about can it be used in a research context?
Well, in my case, I do research with AI. So then I do research with AI. So then I do comparisons, and as I have this researcher's friend in style. So then I extract styles from generated texts, from machine translated texts. I extract patterns, right? So then I also from human text, and then I compare. I also use other types of AI and machine learning for data analysis. So I use different types of methodologies available within the field of AI for my own research. But I also think it can also be used to help brainstorming, to help also perhaps do data analysis. I also use AI for coding for data analysis, for learning more about programming and functions in order to improve my data analysis. I think different tasks. It helps me in many different tasks.
Me
and how
too.
about you?
Also, because translation is also a part of research, an important part of translation is research, and also for distant reading, for instance, or to also for glossaries. Before I had to do it all manually, and now it's very easy. You have to double check, but you have the Excel with a glossary with the terms and the equivalents and even the sources if you want. So it's really helpful. And also in my research, I use it also for data analysis. And also like if I don't know some papers are they interesting, are they not? Notebook LM, for instance, from Trinity, it's very good in summarizing so that also helps. And like a small thing, but by bibliography, you can ask it, please transform it into APA. And it's really, so it's also for very practical issues. I think
even for the kind of the project management
of
the research process. Yes, I also use it for this.
Me too.
Yes,
and then,
exactly. And how I think that the last thing we could also discuss it is about ethics
Yeah.
and teaching of
Mhm.
AI, but I know that when we talk about ethics, it involves many
Yeah.
aspects,
Hmm.
like environment, the copyright thing, payment rates for translators. But in terms of my own experience with AI and my own research, I think when we think about ethics, when I think about ethics in the context of literary translation, I think the main aspects that comes up to me, it is related to job satisfaction, right? So I think that is a big issue because translators, we have some evidence and also some students that report that they think that the machine can block their creativity, and then instead of feeling that they are being creative and producing literary, proper literary translation, they are just their work is being reduced just to fixing the machine's errors. And yeah, I think this is a big problem. But I think the solution for this would train our students, and I think there is a gap in the literature in this field. I think this is something that needs to be filled. What is the best pedagogical strategy to teach students in AI, how to best educate them, and this would be, I think, the best way to kind of solve this problem, right? To change the mindset of the students in order to make them view the machine as something that would assist them rather than replace them.
And also, how can the machine trigger creativity instead of blocking creativity?
Exactly.
I think there could be
trigger the creativity, exactly, because it can trigger.
Yeah, it can trigger.
Yeah,
it can trigger really.
And also, as I said, it can also amplify the creativity. Right? So
that's true.
Different associations of things could be done using the output or brainstorming.
Yeah, and also I think that each translator is a universe. So there are different kind of translators. So that there can be, but freedom is therefore also really important. Some translators will say, our students, maybe two, but maybe that's not realistic any longer. Well, I do only human translation. Okay, they are and they're right. But I think that we as trainers, we also have like, we are watching and observing reality, and we also need to prepare our students for that reality. If we only train human translation, they are not prepared for the real world, not even a literary translation.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So,
and I think the training students in prompt engineering plays a crucial role.
Yeah, me too.
Right? Because I see the students, they use it in a very, superficial way. They don't know how to explore the tool in their favor.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
So then when they can better use the tool, I think perhaps this view could change.
And I think, well, and what I'm gonna say is a bit maybe controversial also, but I think really it's unethical that if we wouldn't train them for this world.
I agree. Yeah.
So we need to train them in human translation because they need to know what is translation and what is a translation process and decision making and so on. But I think they would also need to learn to use AI as brainstorming tool, but also reworking it, because it's possible that one of their jobs, and it's emotional for a lot of people. Well, it's sad for some people, but things change probably, and well, our students need to be prepared, and then they will decide what they do, but at least they should see the whole range of possibilities. I think.
Yeah, I think this is like a complete training.
Yeah,
right?
a complete training. Yeah. And I think
all these skills.
Yeah, and I believe that's the only way to avoid that publishers will use almost raw output in literary translation. So that's a bit, So we agree.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was a really fascinating conversation. And we do indeed have time for questions. And some questions have been coming in. And I might say there's been some pushback. But can I start perhaps with a question from Jess Tipton? Please, can you share some of the AI translation programs that you've experimented with and their various limitations and uses? As you were going along, I put one or two links in the chat, and Goedele, you mentioned Notebook LM, for example. I put a link in the chat there, but perhaps if you could just mention one or two of the AI programs that you particularly recommend working with.
Okay. Well, in my case, I think I test many. I test most of them. I do like ChatGPT, Gemini. Gemini, it is a very nice platform because we can have access to the playground.
Yeah.
I think ChatGPT as well, the playground, and then the playground we can have, we can explore different prompt engineering strategies, and also using different parameters. But it could be a little bit complex, but I use it in my research, and also explore also different machine translation systems, DeepL, Google Translate, everything that is available. I am there trying to explore and try to
And
understand.
maybe also it's important to say that it's the security of the data. So the subscription is important because then you can like not share your data with the internet. That's really important. And the University of Salamanca, for instance, has an agreement with Google, so we have access to Gemini, and it's like protected. So
Now for my own research, I usually use text that is not under copyright law, and so then this is it's just just for the observation of certain behavior of the machine in certain aspects. In certain
but that's a problem with literary translation, of course.
That's a problem.
So that's why we need to open a debate, and we need to do research. Is output also subject to the
confidentiality of the data
and to copyright and so, but it's not clear at the moment.
Clear.
So we need more research on it, and regulation probably too.
Regulation for sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I was just last week I was reading the guidelines from a major publisher about use of AI, and they were quite insistent that for most purposes it was important that one be using not just the open version of AI of the AI tools, but versions which bespoke versions which are agreed with individual academic institutions that would allow the institution concerned to keep hold of its data and not release it into out into the wide world. But that's an area clearly where there's a lot going on at the moment as the AI firms and academic institutions and institutions more generally are trying to work out what can work and what is ethically permissible. Teodora Tsankova has pushed back on the suggestion of using AI for a first draft of a translation and says the generated target text makes translators question the source text less and hence be less creative. Don't know if you have any thoughts there about using AI for a first draft.
I think that it's also important to train and to experiment first and to train. I have done some experiments, and in my case, I don't experience what Teodora is saying. I know Teodora very well, and we have talked about it. Maybe it depends on the I don't know, on the translator or the vision of translation or
but I can also think it depends on the prompting used.
And the
Right?
prompting
there are
used
some
maybe
factors
too.
that influence the output.
And
it could be, depending on the prompt and also the type of prompt strategy used. So then it can be more creative or less creative.
And also on the analysis of the source text, I think it's really important that you know the source text, at least the stylistic features, and so before you translate. So I'm doing that normally, so like a distant reading, and also close reading from. So I more or less know what's happening in the text. So maybe that helps. But for students, it's more difficult because sometimes they don't have those strategies. So therefore training is very important.
These tools, they are I think they are a kind of a game changer for translation because it allows certain flexibility through the prompts. So then, for instance, we have a strategy that is called chain of thought, prompting chain of thought. And then James actually and we discussed on how to use it to improve our translations. And this strategy involves brainstorming the context of that text, the broader context of that text, so that the machine can understand and provide better choices for the translated text. Right, based on this knowledge, this previous knowledge that involves the context that we provide for the machine.
Context is really important.
Exactly. Something not possible with the machine translation, the traditional machine translation system. So this flexibility, I think that it represents now like a breakthrough. For sure.
And maybe in the future, but I don't know, maybe if you are translating like several works of one author, maybe you can create your own small LLM and then
now actually we can create now.
So there are a lot of, but I understand some translators, they don't like it, and it's because they've been translating for a lot of years, and I think it's okay, it's perfectly okay. But I think that students now in this world need
in this
to know.
world, I think as I said, I think they deserve this complete training, right? Even if they even for them to say, okay, I know how to use it, but I don't want to use it.
Thank you. So basically, you're suggesting that if one is concerned about the creative response to the source text being in some sense detracted from by the use of AI tools, really you're saying actually you just need to get better at using the AI tool and use it in a more nuanced way, because it's not in itself antithetical to a creative response. It's possible with these tools, but one needs to be able to refine the prompts, perhaps, to achieve it. We have time just for one last question, perhaps. Take the question from Giswald van Egdom, who has a longer question. Thank you for an inspiring conversation. You touched on the professional reality and briefly mentioned the Ellis report. However, if we look more closely at that reality in the language industry, where language tech has been omnipresent for ages, the promise that technology would eliminate drudgery to make room for creativity hasn't quite materialized. Instead, we see that market pressures driven by automation have had terrible consequences: a focus on volume over value, a loss of sense of ownership and clear downward price pressure, culminating in talent drain and a decline in professional fulfillment. So Giswald's question, while we can indeed use AI to augment our work, can run-of-the-mill literary translations actually afford to use these tools optimally? Or are the systemic side effects of AI integration becoming so great that they outweigh the technological benefits? So there's, yes, a rather more kind of sobering evaluation from Giswald there. I don't know how you respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Thank you very
Isabel.
much.
Yeah, it's of course it's. I will answer from my professional view, maybe. First of all, I've been translating literature since '97, and the conditions were always poor, and they're getting poorer, but not because of AI, because AI isn't not yet used really. So the conditions are poor, but I don't know how to fix that. But I think if we don't open up to how to face AI and output of AI, the publishers will do it for us. And I think it's worse. For instance, Harlequin, we know that they use AI, and they even don't use literary translators to post-edit. So they give it to a translation agency. So I think if we close our eyes and we say no, 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 it will be worse. And
Yeah,
that's
it will be
why
worse.
that's why I would like to open up the debate, try to talk also to publishers, but we need evidence to show them that there is added human value. I love the concept of human-centered augmented translation, and I would like to see evidence of it in literary translation. There are not so many. I think there is no much research in this way.
No.
And instead of well, seeing the bad things, because literary translation has been bad forever. Since I know why I am a literary translator, because I love the job. And a lot of literary translators will say, well, if I need to use AI, I don't love the job anymore. And I understand. But on the other hand, I think we should need to do research on how can AI help us, because it's there and publishers are using it. So if we could help the literary translators to make them more creative or more productive or ergonomics, a lot of literary translators, they have mouse syndrome because they're typing the whole day. Maybe there is a way to, maybe if they don't type that much and they can focus on the really creative problems or the, I don't know. It's just questions, but
we definitely need more research.
we need more,
all these topics.
Yeah.
Addressing all of these problems.
Yeah, and also authorship and
how to
everything.
best train, the best pedagogical strategy.
Yeah.
What is going on during the translation process.
Yeah.
How train to how it interferes in the critical thinking. All of this.
All this, yeah. And the fears of translators, of course, they have fears, and I have fears. But I've just translated a book of 600 pages, and I think they paid me like four centimes per word. It's. I wonder why do you still do that kind of work? And so I'm trying to see if the use of technology can help me to better live or better translate, also better translate. Better produce, better everything, because the way it is now, it's not a good condition either. I don't know if we have answered the question.
One thing I think also it deserves to talk about is that funding for research. It is a big problem.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
Researching in the field of translation.
Yeah, and in literary translation.
We know that translation is everywhere, it's part of our life. Research for translation is still something that probably is not the priority of government in general. But this is a big problem that is probably making this process and also knowledge on how things should go,
that's being a problem.
Being the problem,
and also
hampering the process.
And also I think it's dangerous to focus only on AI, because there are other problems, like the language schools are closing. All smaller languages in a lot of countries are closing. So diversity. And nobody is, that's also a huge problem. There is more and more indirect translation through English. Also, we could say that's also a problem, because diversity and is also getting lost. So it's not only AI and technology.
No.
I think you've opened up a new topic there for us perhaps to explore in a future PETRA-E conversation. And certainly, if there are those on the call today who would be interested in addressing that question of language diversity and translation, please do get in touch with us. And indeed, if you have an idea for a PETRA-E conversation on any topic that is related to your particular research interests, we'd love to hear from you. We do have other PETRA-E conversations in the pipeline, and we will be in touch. Our secretary, Josephine Murray, will be in touch about those over the rest of this year. There was one comment in the chat from Jack McMartin about the CETRA Research Summer School in Translation Studies, and chaired by Professor Dorothy Kenny, whose work is very relevant to this topic. Let me put a final link in the chat as well to the volume Using Technologies for Creative Text Translation, which has been edited by, among others, James Hadley, and it's already become one of the most important contributions in this area. But we have run out of time. We've gone slightly over the hour, but I think we're able to cover, well, I know we were able to cover almost all of the questions, and I feel that we've managed, that you in your conversation have managed to cover the great majority of that long menu of issues which I read from at the beginning. It's been a super conversation to listen in on, and I think it really has demonstrated the value of these PETRA-E conversations. I'm very glad that we have this series as part of our activities, and look forward to further conversations from PETRA-E colleagues. But for the moment, let's leave the conversation there, but not before, on everyone's behalf, can I thank Goedele and Natalia for a really fascinating PETRA-E conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Duncan. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
Duncan.
And thank you to everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.